Hafa and hello, my name is Kelly Bloss and this is my channel, Standard Bites International. Today we're making beef pot roast. It is a great comfort food and it's a comfort food that my family really enjoys. And it'll comfort you after a long day, a cold day, or just, a stressful day. Beef pot roast tends to have that homey, home-cooked comfort meal that just kind of makes you feel like right inside. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but that's how I feel about beef pot roast. Beef pot roast, I've measured to the best I can, but your salt and pepper taste, this should always be to your adjustment. Some people do like things saltier, some people less salty. So the most important part is going to be salting your meat. Now, when you salt your meat before cooking it, actually a lot of it tends to come off of the meat and go into the broth. So don't worry too much about that. You're not going to make some really salty dish unless you're pouring cups of salt onto your chuck roast. What you want to do is take it out of the package and pat it down really well with some paper towel, something you can dispose of. You want to transfer the chuck roast onto a plate or something that'll fit it. Even a bowl will work because we're going to put that in the refrigerator for about an hour before we cook this. Now, it's not required that you do it, but I think this helps to develop the flavors more. In a way, it's kind of like a dry marinade, but you're also extracting any kind of excess liquids that's in the meat so that you have a really concentrated beef flavor. Once you have pat your pot roast down with paper towels, then you'll want to liberally sprinkle it with some kosher salt. I prefer kosher salt, but you can use sea salt. However, you're going to use half the amount of sea salt than you would kosher salt because kosher salt tends to be big flakes, whereas sea salt tends to be more fine grains. So you'll have to pay attention to that. So season or salt your meat really well and then put it in a bowl, keep it in the bowl and put it in the refrigerator covered with plastic wrap for about an hour and let that dry marinade. As I said, that is not a requirement. It is just a suggestion and for the reasons of getting a better flavor in your pot roast. As the beef is in the fridge dry marinating, this is a good time for us to chop up our vegetables to put in the pot roast. You're gonna need onions, garlic, carrots, celery, and for some people, they like to put potatoes in it. I like to put turnips in it. Turnips are better for you. They're a starchy vegetable, but they have more fiber in it than, for instance, potato does, and the carb index is a lot lower. So the pot that you're going to be using to cook the pot roast in, put that on the stove, turn the heat on to about medium-high and add some extra virgin olive oil. We're going to caramelize our carrots and celery before we cook the meat. It's going to take about 3 to 5 minutes to get a nice light caramelization on the outside of the carrots and the celery. Now that your meat has sat in the fridge for an hour, take it out of the refrigerator, pat it dry, put a little bit more, about 1 to 2 tablespoons more of extra virgin olive oil in your pan and turn that heat up to high. We're gonna create a really nice sear on the outside of the beef pot roast. Again, we're just creating more flavor. We're just intensifying the flavors of the beef. And then we're also sealing in the good juices that we want to seal in to the beef so that we'll have a tender, juicy pot roast that is full of flavor. Now that we have all sides of the meat seared, we're going to add water until it just covers the top of the beef pot roast. And then we're gonna put the cover of the pot on there, and we're gonna let it come to a boil. I like to cut up my beef pot roast before serving, and I think most people do, but be careful, you know, ask for help if you need to, move your pot closer towards your cutting board, you know, don't carry it across the room. And then again, use a pair of tongs and a spatula to transfer the beef pot roast onto a big cutting board, you know. And then my recommendation in cutting meat is always go against the grain. And you'll see here in my video, the way this meat was cut, I actually had to cut it and then turn it on its side in order to get a cut that was against the grain. So, you know, that really makes a big difference. It's just one of those little steps that if you pay attention to, you're just allowing yourself to have a better eating experience and your family to have a better eating experience. Because although the meat is tender, if it's cut the wrong way, it can seem a little tough. So just pay attention to little things like that. Now, what I served my beef pot roast with was mashed potatoes, and it's pretty much my standard mash. I think that I learned this one trick either from Ina Garten or Paula Deen on the Food Network, and I haven't deviated from this mashed potato recipe since. So what I'll do is I'll peel and clean them first, and then I'll boil them in just enough water to cover the top of the potatoes. Once it comes to a boil, you know, leave it in there, check for doneness, you know, with a fork or a toothpick or something until you see it goes through very easily. And then what I do is I put that aside. Usually I'll add some garlic to it, just a little bit, and make sure to finely chop it and then mash it. With the side of your knife, just mash it and then add it to the butter and just let it lightly cook. And once that's done, then I will add my heavy cream, and then I will add my bouillon to that cream. And once that's done, once it comes to boil, once the bouillon is dissolved, then you can pour it into the mashed potatoes. And again, do it gradually, because if you pour too much, you can't take it back out once you've added it. So, and then keep mashing your potatoes, mixing it, and once you get to that consistency, stop. Again, you don't want to add it, you don't want to make it too wet, because there's one last ingredient that you don't cook into the cream. My favorite thing to add is sour cream. It just gives it a nice silky and tart flavor on top of the, creaminess of the cream and the butter added to it. Stir that in really well and then serve. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this meal. I hope it provides you with that homey comfort feeling that a pot roast normally does. I know it always does for me, and I really hope that you like the purple top turnips. It's really just a great way for you to add vegetables, but your kids won't really notice. They'll think it's potatoes. So this is one way to get them to eat some potatoes, and it is really just a good substitute for potatoes. So I really hope you like this recipe. Click on the link in the description below if you want the recipe, and then I hope you'll like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for joining me. Have a great day.